Brought to you Midtown Motors at 78th and Dodge. In business in Omaha for over 50 years. Your narrator, John Coleman.
A powerful twister hit the little Iowa hamlet of Yorktown, killing one person and injuring at least 26 others. Killed by the tornado was Mrs. Flora Eichhorst. The big wind, according to officials, destroyed most of the town and damaged every home in the hamlet of 150 people. At last report, it was noted the little Iowa town of Yorktown, which was nearly wiped off the map yesterday by a tornado, may be taken off the map voluntarily after coming out of the days of having lived through one or more killer tornadoes. The townspeople are giving up in despair. The entire town, especially the small business district, has been destroyed by nature's powerful force. The twisting, unannounced thief robbed the hamlet of everything, and the people see no reason to stay. Every structure in the little... Don't scratch Yorktown, Iowa off the map. The people there have decided there must always be a Yorktown, and no little thing like a tornado can change that stubborn fact. The shattered hamlet has organized, and people from hundreds of miles around have offered their help in breathing life back in the bleeding little city. Governor Harold Hughes says that
some of the news stories that were telecast the day the big twister hit Yorktown, Iowa, and the few days thereafter. They certainly tell the facts, but they can hardly tell the entire story. It's no easy thing to stare death directly in the face and come out smiling. It's even tougher after that to come out of your broken shelter and survey your little city and find out that the tallest thing still standing is you. You thank God that you and your family are still alive. You feel remorse for those who did not fare as well. And then, still shaking, you recall what happened. And you remember that there was nothing you could do about it. There was no time, no warning, and death was just seconds away.
And I thought maybe I should say something about going to the cave, but I didn't think it was going to storm. I really thought it was just going to have some rain. I didn't think of any wind in particular. Couldn't see no funnel or anything, but just awful black.
And then what happened, Laura?
Well, then I thought we'd go to the south side of the house where the storm came. And the first thing we saw was two limbs coming across the street. And that was the first thing we saw happen in Yorktown. Then just that quick it hit our place, and everything started, the glass started to fly and the limbs started to break up again the house, and the awfulest racket I ever heard in my life.
So, Otto, you'd had this storm cellar out here beside the house for all these years and planned to go to it when the storm came, and you didn't make it.
I really had planned on going to it, but I don't know whether I didn't think of it or whether I didn't have time. I know I didn't have time because when I did think of going, I couldn't get out there.
What was the next thing you and the missus did?
We had our arms around each other and just kept to working with the storm.
It's no easy task to think about building back after going through hell and losing everything. But these people did. We'll have that story after this message. Yorktown, Iowa, even at its best, before the big twister came, was by no means a thriving community. It was suffering a slow death. Or perhaps we should say, it was going into retirement. But there was a time when this was not true.
25 and 30 years ago, this town was pretty prosperous yet. There was the railroads, a bank, and a good deal of business going on in this town.
And then what happened?
Well, they took the railroad out and the bank left, and the town sort of went downhill, I'd say.
Was it a dying town then when this tornado streaked through on April 12th of '64?
Not exactly, no. They was all happy here and contented to live in this little town.
So after the departure of the railroad, the town had leveled off.
Yeah, that's right.
About 150 happy people.
That's right.
Retired farmers?
Mostly retired farmers.
Active farmers, some folks commuting in Shenandoah.
That's right.
And then April 12th came. The town was obviously dying slowly, and on April 12th, the death blow was certain. It was no longer a decaying town. It was a dead town. It had crumbled to the ground. Why then build it back so it could continue to its weary process of seeking ultimate oblivion? Perhaps the best answer came from the Reverend Theodore Letzring of St. Paul's Lutheran Church.
Well, I feel very certainly that if the church had been destroyed to a greater extent, say it was completely demolished, the people would have been very hesitant in knowing what to do, and perhaps we would have lost a good number of people from the community. As it was, when the rumors first came about with our church being shook on its foundation, there were quite anxious moments till we learned it was sound.
The church itself didn't escape injury. Reverend Letzring noted himself that the old structure lived 5 years in the 2 minutes that the twisters danced around and through it. But the first project of repair was the church, and the people rushed to its rescue and put a roof back on it. And it was the church that gave the final boost on Jubilee Sunday. This made the people determined to stay and fight.
In Christ Jesus, our Good Shepherd, dearly beloved, saved eternally by grace and mercy of God alone, and spared by his love and kindness in Christ Jesus. We have just had opportunity once again to raise our voices in the song of praise to the Almighty, the King of creation, because God is Almighty, God is our King, because God is the one alone to whom we should raise our voices in songs of praise. And moreover, he alone is the one whom we have come to know as our Good Shepherd, as the one who seeks and cares for the lost sheep. This we know today with ever-increasing assurance. For last Sunday, Misericordias Domini Sunday, was Good Shepherd Sunday. Today is Jubilate Sunday. Last Sunday, as every day, we were under his guiding, shepherding care. Today, we are to sing his praises in his name. Last Sunday, we closed our service as we studied the epistle lesson for the day with these words: "Ye were as sheep going astray, but now are returned unto the shepherd and bishop of your souls." Today, we are to rejoice and make a joyful noise unto the Lord. And we can, for no one of our flock was taken away, in spite of the strength of the storm and the damaging tornadoes which struck our homes. No one save one, whom the Lord took to himself.
So the big fight began to breathe life back into the little hamlet of Yorktown.
The people had already organized at the request of Governor Harold Hughes, and a disaster headquarters was set up in the middle of town. The small structure was donated by a lumber company in Shenandoah, and there's still an argument over whether it's a hog shed or a chicken coop, but it got the job done. A temporary post office to replace the one which was completely destroyed was set up on the front porch of the mayor's home, and duly marked as such. People from Nebraska, Missouri, and all of Iowa rushed into the Yorktown area to give generously of their time and labor. A special disaster unit composed of Mennonites from Kelowna, Iowa, drove hundreds of miles to stay in Yorktown and lend a badly needed helping hand. Heavy equipment was donated. Even entire homes were offered. Persons whose homes were completely destroyed moved in with relatives and friends with salvageable homes and helped them start to rebuild. An emergency two-way radio hookup on the Citizens Band was set up next to the disaster headquarters to control the hundreds of workers and coordinate the cleanup effort. The owner of the equipment, Rexel Mitchell, donated his truck, his equipment, and his time. Hundreds of school children of all ages came from miles around, and even the tiniest hands took on the gigantic task of building back a town. The Red Cross, Salvation Army, and private citizens set up emergency food centers to provide renewed strength for the weary laborers. The dessert section at the end of this long line of meats, potatoes, macaronis, chickens, and vegetables looked like a contest counter at the state fair. Clothing was brought in and given out freely to those who had lost everything. And Yorktown began to grow back slowly as the erratic pulse beat of the torn little town began to pulsate to the tune of hundreds of hammers that were reshaping its future. Another echo, the most important one, began to resound from one end of Page County to the other as the work continued on.
I'll stay if you'll stay.
Well, if you ain't leaving, I ain't either.
I'll stay.
Well, we're going to stay.
If you're going to stay, I'll stay. I'll stay.
I'll stay.
I'll stay.
I'll stay.
I'll stay.
I'll stay if you'll stay. This was an especially magical sentence when it came from the lips of Marvin McElhenney. He ran the locker in the town and the post office. Both were destroyed.
The people have come to us and asked us what our plans were. Of course, we didn't know at first. They seemed to all want to stay, and of course we did too. And after we'd talked to the townspeople, and they said if we'd stay, they would. So we decided we'd try to build back.
And how's your spirit today?
Well, 100% better than it was just a week ago today.
Now, what will be the date when you start construction of your new building here?
We've got to tear this, what's left down back here, and fill in the basement part of it. As soon as we get that out of the road, the contractors can come in and start on a new floor.
Now, you're going to be the only businessman, retail businessman in this community. Do you think there's a future?
I think there is, because the locker part serves the community surrounding here and really doesn't depend on the town itself. The line of groceries that we put in will be for the townspeople themselves.
McElhenney doesn't depend on the town, but the town depends on him. Running a food locker is practically 100% farm business, but Yorktown is in need of a place to buy groceries and get its mail. So Marvin's decision to stay led many others to make a similar decision. The defeat of one person almost led to the defeat of Yorktown. Rudy Eichhorst decided to leave. He was beaten by the big wind of April 12th, and as he surveyed his loss, he knew what the score was, and the vicious funnel cloud had come out the victor. The twister seemed to have picked on him more than anyone else. It was almost as if it had run its quivering fingers down a long list in the phone book and stopped on his name and said, "Let's call him first." Rudy's mother was killed. His 3 brick buildings were scattered throughout the hamlet. His grocery store and home combination was flattened, and there was nothing left. Rudy was the grocer, the fire chief, the garage mechanic, the implement storage man, and the city clerk. And it all went with the wind. It was a miracle that Rudy and his wife are alive today to be making any decisions. Perhaps the credit should go to their dog, Rusty. At the height of the storm, when the Eichhorst and their home were being tossed around, the dog went through the door and into the adjoining building and crawled into the fire truck. Mr. and Mrs. Eichhorst followed the canine's lead, and seconds later the 3 structures collapsed like a sandcastle, assisted by a young child's foot.
Well, I'll have to locate more with my investment. I don't know what else to do. I'll have to go, plan on going to Clarinda and purchasing a home over there, and possibly, there's a possibility that I can still work here. Maybe have to get a job over there. Serve the same people that I did before, but it wouldn't be in Yorktown, I'm afraid.
What do you think is the future of this community? Can it come back?
I think it can, as a town for retired persons and a small business. I think there is possibilities. I certainly do. I regret the fact that circumstances are going to force me to leave here at present.
Tell us something about your business. Now, what all was located back here?
In the center building there, the one that has the white door, I had my repair shop. I did automobile and tractor repair work, and I can say that I had a nice business there. The grocery store to the west, it's demolished. This end of it was our store, and the back end was our living quarters, and well, you know what happened to all the grocery business in the small town. I don't need to say anything about that.
Mrs. Eichhorst, if there had been no tornado, would you have looked forward to staying here the rest of your life?
Yes, I think so.
You had friends?
Yes, we hate to leave this town.
You feel this community had enough spirit and heart to last for years upon years?
I think so. We're very closely tied here. A lot of friends.
Yorktown wasn't the only area picked out to satisfy Mother Nature's anger. She was ruthless as she crossed Page County's rich farmlands. She was inflamed as she twisted gigantic threshers like pretzels. She was enraged as she tore poles out of the ground, ripped trees into toothpicks, and wagons into kindling. She was bloodthirsty as she took cattle and pigs and chickens and threw them into farms half a mile away and left them dead or dying, some never to be found again. And she was infuriated when she missed a farmhouse with one funnel, so she created more funnels and worked them like pogo sticks until one fell on its target. And she wasn't satisfied until she had completely destroyed 15 farms, leaving only the mailboxes standing, and greatly damaged over 150 other farms. But the people of Page County came back laughing at Her Majesty's raids. They had lived all their lives fighting the elements, and although this was drastic, it could not defeat their will to carry on, and the reason was simple.
Well, we have good soil in Page County, and I think it's a good place to farm.
Not everyone was badly hurt by the tornado, but all suffered some kind of damage. Mayor Tom Whitney, for instance, had damage to his house, but it still withstood the Holocaust of April 12th. But Mayor Tom did lose his garage, and a freak accident took place when that happened. The funnel completely removed the garage, but left the car inside almost unharmed. It broke the glass out of the taillight and then removed the letters AMBLER from the tailgate. Tom and his neighbors were cautious during the days ahead to keep an eye out for those precious letters as they began to clean up their yards. And 1 week later to the day, the mayor returned the final letter, the B, to the back of his station wagon. But Mrs. Wild was not so lucky. When her house was hit, a brand new drape was blown out of the front room and into the top of a tree. There was no time to climb the tree and get it down, even after Mrs. Wild had put her window glass back in. Putting the roofs back on was more important. But today, the drape is back in that window. And the B has completed the lettering on the back of the mayor's auto. And there's a new 2-car garage protecting the automobile. And Yorktown is breathing again. And the farmers, they'll have time this spring and summer to build back, mainly because they have many more friends than they would have believed. Persons from surrounding states and neighboring townships have given the people of Page County the job of rebuilding the houses, barns, and silos without the worry of losing their livelihoods. These friends will plow the fields and plant the crops, while the residents put a roof back over their heads. You never know how many friends you have or how many good people there really are until you're down and it seems there's no hope. As Governor Harold Hughes pointed out to the people, if you rise up and help yourself, God and man will surround you with a helping hand also. It'll take time, but Yorktown, like all American cities, has a backbone. And the people of Yorktown have taken the tools in their hands, and with those tools, and with those hands, and with friends, and with God's help, there'll be a Yorktown forever.
Yorktown, Too Tough to Die, has been brought to you by Midtown Motors, 78th and Dodge. In business in Omaha for over 50 years.